That's
which
really
is
important
which
for
is
radio.
yeah,
Very
it's
important
hugely
for a
important
podcast.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. So,
You know what was awesome about having him here, though, besides the fact that he was newly enthusiastic about wine, which who the hell knew that was going to be
Yeah.
and him being an artist, I think that was another thing that blew my mind in Podcast Zero was this understanding or this realization that wine, at least it was for me, that each bottle of wine has its own story, has its own individuality. It is, it's unique, like the work of an artist. It's also created like the work of an artist. So I was like, oh my God, we're going to be bringing an artist, we're drinking wine together, and here's this like intersect that my entire life being around artists, and yes, of course, drinking a lot of wine, I never put two and two together about how related they actually are. And I mean, obviously you spend a lot of time here working on your art and, you know, being in the environment of people who really appreciate what wine is and how it's made. Like, do you see that? Is that something that...
Yeah, I mean, winemakers are artists. I mean, where there's risk, there's art, and there's more risk in winemaking than most things. You know,
because you have there's a huge financial component to it,
well,
right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, you know, it's like once you include Mother Nature in the business plan, you know, it becomes really, really risky. I mean, so you're trying to express an idea, you know, that you can't express with words or visual. It's you're making wine, and I would say if there's no art, if there's no risk, there's no art. So there's tons of risk in winemaking. You know, you can go a whole year and not be able to produce a wine. You know, so that's why the winemakers, in my opinion, are rock stars and artists, and and they're farmers too, which is cool. They're sort of like blue collar as well. You know, when we meet them, they're here just on for sales and marketing, but 99% of the other time they're in boots and walking around the dirt.
Yeah, and I think the major thing that winemakers have in common with any other form of art is that they put themselves out there for like the highest level of like critiquing and criticizing. And like I see that as a chef all the time. It's like you see, you create a dish and maybe everything single thing you do, you're putting out there and saying, this is the best I can do here, try and go. And you're really like putting yourself out there and setting yourself up and telling somebody, I've created something, this is the best I can do, and now I'm giving you the freedom to critique it. Because like in cooking, if I create a dish for somebody, it exists for 2 seconds until they eat it. If you produce 50,000 bottles of wine, people are going to sit there and they're going to analyze it, and they're going to, love it or talk shit about it or whatever. And it's the same thing with winemakers. It's the same thing with somebody that's going to do a painting or somebody that's going to do, a play, any of that stuff. You're creating it, and you're really putting yourself out there, and then you're giving these people the opportunity to just like either rip it apart or pop the piece, much in that. Either rip it apart or love it,
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's...
And it's alive. It's a living thing.
Yeah.
Stuck in a bottle.
Yeah.
Changing over time.
Yeah.
Wait, what's alive in wine?
I mean, it's that idea of the fact that like there is a slight amount of oxygen. That's why the cork is so beautiful, because there's a slight amount of oxygen exchange that goes through the cork, and slowly, that's what slowly changes the wine over time. And that slow amount of oxygen coming into contact with the surface of the wine, just like when we pour it into the decanter, we're accelerating that kind of aging process in a matter of an hour or whatever. But that slow amount of oxygen exchange, the wine that we're drinking now is going to taste different tomorrow. Slightly different tomorrow, drastically different over 50 years, but every day is never going to taste the same minute to minute to minute to minute.
Right.
And that's what's cool.
being alive and letting time affect it, like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Never thought of that, about the age of wine and how that is a part of its life, really. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm with Nick. I'm not someone who has spent any kind of time appreciating wine as anything other than an awesome drink to get a little drunk on. So this is opening a whole new world for me, and I'm loving it. It's blowing my mind.
Yeah, me too.
That's right.
Grab that.
Well, while we're doing this, give instructions.